Let's see if this phone works again. I reported this one. Oh, it does. Solid gold. Solid gold. I'll leave Payphone Radio playing on top of the religious literature. Welcome back to Flushing.
Either you'll take the taxi there or you'll walk there.
Meanwhile, this CityBridge masterpiece is still standing. It ain't chilly if it ain't Hormel. Anybody else is just an imitator. I'm not going to touch this phone because this booth smells of piss. And I'm vaccinated and everything, but they say pee is a transmitter. Or at least they speculate. And I'm not going to touch it anyway because I already know it doesn't work. There's no way they fixed this thing in the last however many years it's been out here. But people stop when they see me holding my camera up like I'm a master at work or something. Really, this phone is all about the chili, though. know, this place is a real tearjerker, isn't it? I'm so funny. Flushing eyes. Reminds me of, I always wondered why anybody would put their money in a bank called Flushing Savings. So I wasn't really intending to come out to Flushing today, but when do I ever end up where I had set out as my destination? There was just this really beautiful woman on the train, and we made eye contact and shared a couple of laughs over just the behavior of the train, or train conductor, I should say. But no words were spoken. And as far as checking in on that payphone, well, I had every intention of doing that anyway this week, so what time but the present, right? I just passed a Catholic church where they have confessions taking place right now, where you're allowed to go in, and I remember what you're supposed to say is, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been however long since my last confession." And I'm actually thinking of doing that. I haven't confessed. I think the last time I confessed was at St. Patrick's, and that would have been like in the 90s. Of course, I haven't confessed because I haven't done anything wrong, right? Woman on the train was probably like 60. Pretty bad at guessing people's age, actually, but I think I'm probably on target with this one. But you know, we exited the same way. Exited the Main Street Flushing train station the same way. Both of us looking for the escalator because we're old. That's how I interpret it. But I only could keep track of her as far as the New World Mall. That's where I lost her. You could lose anybody in there. You could lose an elephant in the New World Mall. So I circled around. I went around to 41st Road, I think. Maybe it's 40th. And came back over to Roosevelt Avenue. And I'm not gonna say exactly where this is because it doesn't matter. And it was not on Roosevelt Avenue, by the way. But the hookers here are just brazen. They're just so like, hello. Hello, how are you? Want to come inside? And this looked across one of the bigger avenues or streets, whatever, doesn't matter. And this young woman across the way just took one look at me and she waved, she smiled, and she nodded her head. It's when they see a middle-aged white guy, they just pounce. It's been like that as long as I've been coming over here. Although I wasn't probably fully aware of it the first several visits, but I'm certainly aware of it now. But I have not given in, I have not succumbed. So, not to play puns or anything. church looks abandoned. Oh, look, there's a Metro card. If I could reach it, I'd pick it up, see if there's anything left on it, but they say the Metro card is the most recognizable object in New York. Patch of silence, patch of abandonment in one of the most densely populated parts of New York. Main Street, Flushing. Flane Street mushing, strain meat, strain fleet mushing, strain flane meat strushing. This looks like a little bit of rainforest. Let's see what the graveyard looks like. The St. George graveyard in Flushing. It's amazing how quiet it is, just steps from Main Street. You know, I'm not gonna lie, having seen the sign for a church that has scheduled time for confession, I mean, they all have scheduled times for confession, but I hadn't seen a sign for that in a long time. Why don't I go do that? I can already tell you what I'm going to ask or what I'm going to say. Say, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I don't know how long it's been since my last confession. And then I don't remember what the person behind the blinds is supposed to say next, but go ahead, son. Go ahead, my son. Speak. And I'll ask, instead of saying anything, I'll ask, is it still considered sinful to have sex with a woman outside of wedlock? And depending what he says next, I'll either confess or go home. Thank you for your time. You know, I consider vertical text to be kind of a necessary evil, as much as I loathe it. But if you're going to do it, could you at least center it? The eye looks like it's not supposed to be there. I don't know. It's like the eye is not a part of the congregation here. But there's no church here anyway. So what am I talking about? Here's your church. Let's see if there's another view here. This is on Prince Street. This is interesting. This is like a metaphor for God, isn't it? Or a metaphor for church. Demolition, excavation, foundation. Praise God. This doesn't seem to say if this is going to be the same church that it was before. Or maybe this is... All this says is demolition of a two-story building. It doesn't say what's coming. Oh, that's a nice typesetting effect I don't see too often. The T in the I. T and the I just can't keep their hands off each other. I was wrong, by the way. That church was not on Prince. It was on 37th Avenue, also known as Congressman Roosevelt Place. It was near Prince Street. I swear that said, I thought that said ENEMA. When I was in high school, I wrote a story that ended up being called No Such Entity. But in my search for words, and before I had any idea what it meant, I called the story, the title of the story was No Such Enema. And I showed it to a friend and he just laughed. I was sitting at a table with some other guys and I said, "What's so funny?" And he was like, "Do you know what that word means?" "What, enema?" And he didn't have the guts to tell me, so he asked somebody else at the table, and everybody laughed. He like asked the table, if you will, I was like, "Anybody want to tell him what this word means?" One guy sort of covered his mouth and he said, "Hose up the ass." Which at the time didn't really explain to me what an enema was, but it was enough to make me realize that I had the wrong word. And that I was looking for no such entity. But that word enigma reminded me of it. Or, I mean, the way that enigma looked like enema reminded me of that great moment in literature. See, this is how you do vertical text. Not to get retentive about it, but... Or why the hell not? If you're going to go here, why not get retentive as hell? You center it so everybody looks like they belong. The I in particular is particularly vulnerable to looking conspicuously out of place when vertically aligned. And this is a cool view, by the way, to the highway. Because the bus always rises up. That's the Q66. Oops. That comes basically from my front door to Main Street, that Q66. It's not quite the epic trek or the epic journey like that the Q60 is. That's like you travel through several countries and you end up on the 60, you end up in, I guess, Briarwood, or maybe it's Jamaica. You definitely get to Briarwood. The 66 is mostly just Northern Boulevard, though, which has its moments, but for the most part, it's pretty homogeneous. Let's see what this church is about. I'm definitely circling the churches these days, am I not? Oh, there's another one right there. So many people, so many churches. And yet for all those churches, there's only one God, or so we like to think. It's like, how do you choose a church then? Or do you? Or are you just born into it? It's like, I'll choose your church if you let me fornicate with the devil. No? You won't let me do that? Alright then, I'll choose you as my church if you let me steal from the poor. No? I'll choose you as my church if you let me indiscriminately murder animals. No. Whoops. Oh, the church is... I would have bet cash money the church was on this side of the street. It was weird. I'll go over here then. I'll choose you as my church if you're on the right side of the street. How's that? Okay, I am confused. I guess that church is on the other block. I'll choose you as my church if I can figure out where the hell you are. I passed this one earlier. Baptists. Taejin Chung ass. That's it. I'll choose you as my church if I am free to covet my neighbor's ass. That's the old translation of one of the 10 Commandments. There's no way I could remember all the 10 Commandments off the top of my head. But they are, I mean, you talk about fundamentals of human behavior. The first one is thou shalt not kill, I think. The second one, and I guess thou shalt not kill is almost universal. Depends who you talk to, I guess, and what mood they're in. I think the second one is thou shalt not take false gods before me. And that's been interpreted a lot of ways. Some people accuse bodybuilders of putting their physique and their self-image ahead of the God Almighty that created them, that gave them that gift. Then there's, in no particular order by the way, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And that's a long-winded way of saying don't lie. Don't lie. What else is there? Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's ass. I can still hear the grade school, hey, why not? The grade school giggles when we would read that one in class. I think it was later revised to be thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's possessions, I guess. And then of course thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, which has probably been revised since then to mean thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's partner. What else is there though? Thou shalt not at least I got 4 of them, right? I think I still remember the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And then, of course, who could forget that old classic, thou shalt not commit adultery, which can be broadly interpreted, I think, to include non-marital, non-wedlock relations. This is the beauty of a Lincoln Town Car, by the way. I have an eye for town cars because I used to drive one. You don't see them in good shape like that too often anymore. It's a 1997 vintage. I'm guessing he had the back put on later, the white roofing. If he'd looked my way, I would have said something, but he didn't. I would have said, that's a beauty, man. Here I am putting false gods before God, right? Here again, this is how you do vertical text. You center the eye. You center everything, but assuming it's all caps, you really don't even notice anything centered or anything not centered except the eye, I guess. I'll keep an eye out for other letters that don't look centered when vertically aligned. Wait, so what do I have 5 commandments now, or is it 6? Shalt not kill, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not put false gods before me, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's ass, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thou shalt not commit adultery, and thou shalt not listen to Roger Adultery. Wait, what? So I can't even count anymore. Was that 5 or 6? I feel like that covers most of the bases. Maybe the others, maybe everything that's left is kind of obscure, or maybe not universal. I can't really think of any letter. Well, in this context, based on this font, the letter E might look a little conspicuous in the N, or the F for that matter. These letters are oddly inconsistent, at least on the bigger sign. If you look to the sign on the right, I guess it's the same. I thought it looked better proportion, but it's not. But for the most part, you go through the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. It's hard to think of any letter except I that will really conspicuously be out of place if you fail to center align your vertical text. Just wanted to say that's a crazy looking Y, the letter Y. Beauty. There's some heavy machinery making some noise back there. Trying to find a place to get some seafood. I don't usually have an appetite during the day. I'll typically go most of the day without eating much of anything. I've actually been seeing a lot of interesting barber's poles today, but there's usually somebody standing nearby. I don't really like getting these little videos if there's somebody standing right there. This one's cool. It's on 41st Ave. I'm gonna guess that is supposed to be pancakes. I hope it's not supposed to be Onancakes. I'd hate to think of what they put in Onan. pancakes. But I think I have 6 of the 10 commandments, and that's not half bad. I was about to add, thou shalt do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But that, I think, is just the golden rule. And by the way, if you ask me, that's a pretty solipsistic code of conduct to live by, but far be it from me to question centuries and millennia proven words to live by. So when if I find a place to sit, I'll look up the remaining 4 of the 10 commandments. See if there are any surprises in there. I think one of them is you're not allowed to turn right on a red light in the 5 boroughs. And a lot of new drivers in New York don't know that. I think that's the 8th commandment. And then there was something about I before E except after C, I think. So I'm sort of at the far end of Main Street, or I guess the edge of Flushing. I'm not, maybe that's not even right, but the edge of Flushing Meadows-Corona Park, where they have this map. And look at how many, they still have the payphones on here. The icons for the old phones that used to be all over the place. Those are actually still there. They haven't worked in ages. I think there's 1 of 2 that used to be there. I remember this one by the boathouse. It was on the wall on the side of that building, side of the boathouse. I guess I probably remember all of these if I think about it. There used to be 4 in this area by what to me is the main entrance, and then there was one on the subway platform, or at least one. There were probably like 8 at one point. Yeah, that's funny. This map must be 15, 20 years old. It's all about the payphones, man. Oh wow, there was even one up. Oh, I remember that one. The one up at the marina. Yeah, I remember that one. Once seen cannot be unseen. But yeah, this must be a nice old map. So I found a place to sit. I'm waiting for my order of Korean noodle. And I'm also waiting for some signal in here. This is the food court at New World Mall. Fingertips dead or something. I have trouble with other touchscreen things. Well, of course, Amazon is the first search result for the 10 Commandments. I think I just saw Thou Shalt Not Steal. I don't remember if I thought of that one. It seems so obvious. It is very slow signal down here. I was thinking I'd be in for some surprises with the remaining 4 that I didn't think of. Alright, so between that bowl of Korean noodle and now, and by the way, that soup was very sinus cleansing. Between then and now, I remembered the one about the Sabbath day, keep holy the Sabbath, which here they call the Lord's Day. And by the way, I would make that a lowercase s. Remember to keep holy the Lord's Day. I did not remember, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And God damn it, how could I forget that one? And I never would have remembered honor your father and your mother. It's funny, I mean, I was not exactly a rebel kid, but it's the spirit of this I always thought was to do what they tell you to do. But I look at it now and I see, I think it, I mean, maybe it does mean that, but also I think it's more in the spirit of respect your elders. And I got all these, oh, you know what, I'm going to give myself you shall not steal, even though I didn't think of it. I'm going to give myself that one just as a gimme because it's so obvious that I just didn't think of it. Everything else, so I'm giving myself 8 out of 10. I didn't get using the name in vain, and I didn't get honor your father and your mother, and I'm generously giving myself you shall not steal because what the hell, how would I not know that? But I'm going to see if I can find this hilarious clip from History of the World Part 1, the Mel Brooks film, where it's funny. I'll see if I can find it. I should be able to.
Moses went to the mountain, and God spoke unto him.
Moses, this is the Lord thy God, commanding you to obey my law. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, I hear you. A deaf man could hear you.
What?
Nothing, Garnish, forget it. Oh, Lord, why have you chosen me? What would you have me do for you?
I shall give you my laws, and you shall take them unto the people.
Yes, Lord! Lord, I shall give these laws unto thy people. Hear me! Oh, hear me! All pay heed! The Lord Jehovah, has given unto you these 15